Hello, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday. It's April 14th, 2021, although it feels like February 14th, 2021 out there. Spring is on spring break, folks. There's no way to sugarcoat this. This is a long stretch of cold and occasionally damp weather. There's really no good days coming on up for a while. We're going to have off and on snow, rain, fog, thunder in this region through Friday. We have a wave moving through today. Another one comes in tonight, tomorrow, and into Friday. Mountain snows are going to be good. This will be a nice late season boost to the snowpack. That typical late spring snow that's got a lot of water in it. Good news there. Travel and livestock concerns are going to continue. We've got road closures along Interstate 80 and adjacent roads and highways this morning across parts of Wyoming. And if you're going to have to travel over the next 3 days, you're going to need to allow some extra time, and you may have to go around some closures. Modest, very modest break in the weather this weekend. Very modest. So don't get your hopes up. It's modest. Then as we get on into Sunday night and Monday, here comes another cold front. And this cold front actually, folks, I think is going to be more cold than what we're experiencing now. And it's going to be cold most of next week. So I've got no good news. You could stop listening or watching right now if you want to hear some good news. You're not going to get any, at least here for the next week or so. This is what it looks like this morning along sections of Interstate 80 between Rollins and Laramie this morning. Actually, we had some snow showers with thunder along I-80 last night, and so you got those heavier snow squalls, and when you get that, you're going to have some really hard times keeping the interstate open. This is why. A double-barreled area of low pressure. We've got a cold core of cold over the northern Great Lakes, with this other system back over northern Nevada. And as we've been talking about over the last several days, cold air is just pouring in between these systems, and the moisture is coming up and over the colder air. And this is going to be the pattern through tomorrow. Look at the cold air that's underneath this. This is the cold air that's underneath the low up here and the low over northern Nevada. And you can see, now the mountains are holding it up. You get back into western areas of New Mexico, Arizona, southwest Colorado, the cold air, at least yet, not getting into there. But it's also spilling over the divide into parts of the northern Great Basin. So the Great Basin is going to cool off. And look at the warmth. Again, these are temperatures relative to normal. So you can have this big pocket of warmer than normal air there and the colder than normal air there. And this pattern you see right here is what's going to be so stubborn. Now by Friday morning, the Nevada low, which is currently here, moves right across central and northern Colorado and southern Wyoming into western Nebraska during the day tomorrow and into Friday morning. That's going to bring a slug of moisture back into the region, and we're going to see more moisture falling. And you can see this map hasn't changed much. The heavier blue and yellow colors showing up across portions of central and southeastern Wyoming, northern Colorado, into western Nebraska and Kansas, down into the panhandles. We really need moisture in these areas. This is good. We need to see this. But a lot of that you see is going to be in the form of snow. And if you convert that to snow, you can see there's going to be a lot of areas picking up a wet spring snow. Now keep in mind, in these April snow events, a lot of times the snow never gets as deep as those numbers you see because the snow falls, it melts a little bit, it settles. The best snow accumulates during the nights and the mornings. Even with the cold temperatures and even with these thick clouds, that April sun is very intense, and the heat and radiation energy can get through those clouds and still warm up sidewalks and roads and highways. But you get over the higher elevations, especially above 6,000, 7,000, 8,000 feet, you're going to see the snow sticking pretty well. We talked about the wind over the last couple of days, how the easterly wind flow is going to make the strongest winds along and west of the divide, and that's really going to be the case. So while if you're in western Colorado or parts of Utah, northern Arizona, New Mexico, even though you're going to miss out on the worst of the cold west of the divide, you're going to have to be dealing with some pretty stout and some very strong winds here over the next few days. Now, if we were to go out further, this is where we have a problem being able to warm up. What we're going to see is a large area of high pressure building all the way up into Alaska and along the west coast. And what this is doing is it's building up a ridge there, causing the jet stream to migrate way north. And when you get a big cross-latitudinal flow of the jet stream to the north, you have the opposite on the other side. So what ends up happening is you're pumping in all this warmer air into the Gulf of Alaska, much above average temperatures in Alaska going to be developing over the next few days. But this push north of the jet stream displaces the cold air in the higher latitudes on the other side of the high pressure ridge. And that's why, as we get on into the weekend and early next week, we're just not going to be able to warm up. Now, I talked about a modest break this weekend, and it is going to be a very modest break. You can see by Saturday, the lows headed off into the Midwest, and this will allow the weather to be somewhat better across Montana, Wyoming, and Colorado, and western Nebraska and Kansas for Saturday and Sunday. It'll be a little warmer. We'll see the sun. Nothing to write home about. We showed you this feature yesterday. This doesn't look like much, but this is an upper level area of energy, some strong jet stream winds aloft that's going to grab colder air at the surface and plunge it south. And therein lies our problem. As we get on into early next week, that colder air gets released south. So even though the weather will modestly improve on Saturday, these are forecasted high temperatures relative to normal on Saturday. So it's really not going to warm up very much in this region. In fact, stay really chilly relative to average, while it will be warmer relative to normal up in those higher latitudes. Then Sunday night into Monday, this spoke of cold air. Again, I have brought up the analogy of the February Arctic outbreak. And boy, this continues to look very similar to it in terms of the way the pattern's behaving. This is going to drag in some really cold air and moisture out of Western Canada and push it into the Northern Rockies. Now, this is for Sunday afternoon. So we catch a little bit of a break Saturday and Sunday, but this highly amplified flow displaces that Arctic air and pushes it south into the region. And this is what temperatures look like relative to normal by Monday afternoon. When you see purple, for those of you who have been listening and watching this podcast for a while, you know purple means it's going to be really cold relative to normal. So you're looking at temperatures as much as 30 degrees below normal for Monday's high temperatures. Now, high temperatures in the high plains and Rockies across the low elevations this time of year should be anywhere from the mid-50s to the mid-60s, depending on where you live. So you're looking at highs by Monday and Tuesday that may only be in the 20s and lower 30s if this ends up being correct. And we think that this cold plunge is definitely going to happen. And if you look at precipitation, this is precipitation associated with that cold plunge Sunday night into Monday and Tuesday. So you can see there is going to be a swath of rain and snow across a large part of Montana, western South Dakota, northern Wyoming, with that Arctic push Sunday night into Monday morning. And then during the day, Monday and the Tuesday, southern Wyoming, parts of Colorado and the high plains will see some snow and much colder temperatures move on in. And that's what it looks like with the second wave coming our way Sunday night, Monday and Tuesday. Then if we were to go out further, this is for next Thursday night and Friday. We continue to have a highly amplified flow from the Gulf of Alaska into the eastern Pacific. So the door is open to Canada. Look at this pocket of cold air. This right here for April is extremely cold. Really cold air over Hudson Bay. And we're talking going into the last week of April. So you're actually going to see snow in the northern Great Lakes, parts of New England here in the coming days. April turning out to be very similar to February in terms of what we're going to see relative to averages when we add things up. Unfortunately, what I'm showing you is little opportunity for a return to some warm spring-like weather like we had at the beginning of April. So I'm afraid to say that while I do see late next week maybe some moderation in temperatures, it's not going to be enough of a moderation to get temperatures above average or even near average. So this is a prolonged spell of cold April weather. And you can see these are temperatures by next Thursday into Friday. And you can see a large part of North America is just really, really cold still underneath that big trough over Canada and that northerly flow coming in from the northwest. But look at the red from Alaska to along the west coast. Now, eventually what will happen is the pattern will change and this warmer air will get pushed in, but it may not be until after the weekend of the 24th and as we start staring down May. Thanks for listening and watching the Day Weather Podcast. If you've made it this far, we'll see you on Thursday.